Look, right, I don't want to get into a big heavy argument about this. Morning YouTube, hope you're well. British PT here, and today we are talking about the EU referendum, which is going to be taking place shortly in the UK. I'll give you a brief overview of what the EU referendum is. Britain, the UK, the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, England, Wales and Scotland is currently part of the European Union. There is a general feeling in the UK that a lot of people are questioning whether it is beneficial for us to remain as a part of the EU or whether we would be better going and acting as an independent state. The drawbacks and benefits of both are widely documented, but the problem is that a lot of it comes down to people's subjective opinion rather than looking at, I suppose, all of the facts that could be considered. To keep it brief, with more independence, operating as an independent state, we are going to be in a position where we will have more control over our laws, we will have more control over anything that governs daily life in the UK, and we will have a little bit more control over our borders as well. Now, whether you feel this is something that needs concern or not is something for each individual to decide. Remaining in the EU will apparently give us better control with regards to trade. It will allow us to work more openly with European countries when it comes to industry, finance, commerce, etc. But ultimately, the truth is, with the whole argument, no one actually knows what's going to happen. And there are two sides of the coin, and a further two sides after that when you start looking at the EU debate. Obviously, there's the Remain and Leave campaign. The general strength for leaving is that with more independence we can do more. There's a general acceptance that it's going to hit our economy and our financial state. But a lot of people believe that as an independent country we will do better off. We'll have freedom to trade with who we want to trade with. We won't have to listen to the EU Parliament, the European Parliament in Brussels, and we can basically have a lot more independence. The argument to the opposite side of that is that we're stronger in Europe, we can trade with more countries staying in the EU. The European Union has helped us in a number of areas, which again is subjective, it's dependent on whether you felt we've been helped or not. And basically we've got a more secure future if we stay within the European Union. My take on it is that initially I was concerned because I didn't feel like trying to make a decision I had all the facts. So I've spent the last couple of days with the vote looming, researching what the European Union has given us, where we've benefited, but also looking at the drawbacks as well and things that have stopped or not been working as well with us being a member of the EU. I'm not going to go into the specifics of what I researched because it's based upon my personal preferences rather than a generalised view of what the UK has had. And I think that kind of sums up the argument ultimately, which is that the choice to whether to stay or to leave has to be a personal one. There is no clear-cut argument. And that's the same as with all political arguments, essentially, is that it is down to personal opinion. And that makes it very difficult for anyone to say objectively that that's wrong or that's right. It's just an opinion, like this YouTube channel. You might not like it, but it's my opinion. The issue that I think has come up more recently, or that has been raised, I found it has been raised because of my research that I've done, is that actually, fundamentally, there aren't any facts on what will or won't happen if we stay or if we remain within the EU. The reason for that is that it's based on the decisions of companies, corporations, banking arenas, individuals, political states, once it's happened. Because you're not gonna, it's like playing a game of poker, wanting to know what the other player's got. Well, they're not gonna tell you until, you've put in your bet and placed your hand on the table. To try and find the answers beforehand, you can't do it. It's completely illogical. It really comes down to personal preference. And so my summary on this issue, I'm going to keep this a fairly short video because it's such a massive topic, I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours and bore the hell out of you, is that there are no clear-cut facts on the Brexit argument, on the EU referendum. There is no facts, so to speak, because they're all subjective. They're based upon your opinion. For example, certain facts that HSBC have declared that if we leave the EU, they will immediately release, I think it's about 700 or 800 people, and so there will be a loss of jobs in the finance sector. if we leave the EU. What they haven't mentioned is that actually this could increase trade with other countries, and so HSBC might find new markets and ventures to then move into, which may create more jobs. They haven't said that, but then again, they may have an agenda to keep us in. So you've got to look at every single piece of information and say, there are no facts when it comes to the EU, when it comes to the referendum. It is too big a topic. And ultimately, until it happens, no one is going to know what exactly is going to happen, which makes the whole saga very interesting. And this leads me on to the final point, which is that what is the power of a vote without a well-informed public to do the voting? I.e., if we don't have all the facts, can we make an informed decision? Now, the fact that we've now got this referendum ahead of us, and it is very different to the kind of referendum we normally have, talking about the general election, in that this affects the whole country, which obviously the normal election does. But I don't know, there's a general feeling, I personally feel, that we're all in it together because it does represent us from an external view, whereas the general election is a national issue. This is an international issue. And so as a result, the effect that it has on us is slightly more widespread. It doesn't just affect how we operate internally. And although there are obviously international relations with, an interior government, with a general election and the changes that it would make internally, that does affect international relations. Ultimately, this is about how we interact with people. The essence of the argument is about how we're viewed externally. And so as a result, it's a larger issue. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to make my position known because, the truth be told, I'm actually not decided yet. There is too many factors and pros and cons. The thing that I don't agree with is the scaremongering of either side. It will be a disaster if we leave. It will be a disaster if we stay. Let's be blunt, the world is not going to fucking end because we've either decided to leave or stay in the EU. Yeah, life is pretty much going to carry on relatively in the same way that it's carried on already. I think the ship is not going to capsize, whatever we decide to do, but the course and the direction will be changed. And so I think we need to put a bit of balance into this whole discussion, which is that ultimately Britain over the next year is going to probably keep a very similar course to where it is now. Individual companies and people will feel the pinch sooner than the nation as a whole will, but it will ultimately change our course over the next 3, 4, 5 years, moving on to 10 years. And I think that's what people need to think about, is we need to be thinking about this not so much with regards to us now and our financial future over the next 3 to 5 years, but thinking about our future generations and how that affects them, because in 10 years' time, the path will already be set. Whereas now, yes, all right, financial issues and dissidence may cause us short-term problems, but the financial markets are so, so unstable at the moment that could happen anyway, irrespective of a Brexit or a Remain vote. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on the issue. I'm not a political correspondent, as you can probably tell. I am just a British PT. I don't drink tea. What are your thoughts? I'd like to know. Comment below. So that's my video for today. Hopefully back to more or less serious issues tomorrow, talking about bodybuilders and fighting and benefit mums and such. Alright guys, have a great day. Good to speak to everyone on YouTube about it, and if you like my channel, please subscribe. Alright guys, British PT, I don't drink tea. What's your opinion? I want to know. Comment below. Alright guys, see you later. Bye bye.
Enjoy the rain and don't be too down. Bye.